Morning. I'm Glenn W. Worthington, and I love history. I'm a student of history. In fact, I wrote a book that tells the history of diamonds found in Arkansas. This goes back, the first diamonds were found in August of 1906, so this history only goes back, over 100 years ago. But we're standing in a historic spot this morning on a historic day. Today is April 2nd, 2021, and we're standing next to the old Southwest Trail, and we're right near this creek. This bridge behind us is the bridge over Terre Noire. It's French name. A lot of our creeks around here have a French name because this used to be French territory. The United States purchased Arkansas and other states from Napoleon, and that was the Louisiana Purchase. So this became part of the United States, but before then this was French, and that's why some of the things are named French. This road here is the old Southwest Trail, and that trail cuts Arkansas diagonally all the way from the northeast corner to the southwest corner. And we're standing alongside that historic trail that a lot of famous people in the past have traveled. In fact, Sam Houston went down this trail on his way to lead the Texas forces against Mexico to gain liberty to make Texas free from the Mexicans. And when Sam Houston went down this road, he went on down through about 29 miles down the road. Here is the Crater of Diamonds State Park. And the old Southwest Trail used to go from here to Murfreesboro, and there was a ford. A ford is like a gravel bar in a river that wagons could cross. And there was the old Washington Ford right by the Crater of Diamonds State Park that people crossed the Little Missouri River to go on to Old Washington. And in fact, I have maps in here, old maps of the Crater of Diamonds, and if you're familiar with the Diamond Search territory, there's East Hill, Middle Hill, and West Hill, and there used to be a trail that cut in between East Hill and Middle Hill, and that was the Old Washington Trail that went down to the Old Washington Ford and on to Old Washington. And Old Washington, there is a state park there now. In fact, they have a tavern there at Old Washington, and Houston spent a lot of time there playing cards and drinking and eating and things before he went on to Texas. So Sam Houston spent some time there, and there's some old newspapers that tell about his visit to Old Washington and things. Other famous people have traveled this road on their way to Texas too. Davy Crockett and his men from Kentucky went down this road and went to Old Washington, right across the Crater of Diamonds property, and went on down to Old Washington, and then crossed the Red River at Fulton, and then on to Texarkana. And Texas is not all that far from here. So to me, a lot of fascinating history along this road. But the reason we're here today is a little over 157 years ago, on March 23rd, 1847, General Shelby left Little Rock with 200 wagons. Now, if you know, 1864 was during the Civil War, and he was ordered from President Lincoln to take 200 wagons of supplies and go down to Shreveport, Louisiana, and meet up with other Union forces, and together that larger force, supplied with everything in the wagon, would then attack the Confederates here in the South. Well, they left Little Rock on the 23rd of March, and they got to, if you've ever driven from Little Rock to the Crater of Diamonds State Park, you went down this highway and you followed the old Southwest Trail. In fact, there in Benton, which is almost a suburb of Little Rock, there's what's called the Old Military Road. Well, the Old Military Road and the old Southwest Trail is the same thing. Well, the Union forces brought those 200 wagons of supplies along with about 8,500 men to support it, cavalry and infantry. And so they followed pretty much the path you followed, driving from Little Rock along I-30, and then if you get off at the Arkadelphia exit, you come through a little town called Hollywood. It used to be called Spoonville or Witherspoonville, and then this road takes you on to Antoine, Delight, Murfreesboro, and the Crater of Diamond State Park. Well, that's where the Union forces were headed. They went through Arkadelphia, they went through Hollywood, and then we're about at the point 2.5 miles west of Hollywood. That's what it's called today. It was called Spoonville at the time. And this is where the battle, and let me show you the skirmish at Spoonville or Hollywood. There's a sign here, a historic marker that tells about this battle. So it has the name of a lot of Confederate troops and things, and you know, I don't want you to become bogged down with all those names, but Shelby was a Confederate and he attacked the Union Army from the rear at Terre-Neuve Creek, and that's where we are, Terre-Neuve Creek, and it was on April 2nd, 1864, and today is April 2nd, but 157 years later. And then two other generals, Marmaduke and Cable, both Confederate, came from Antoine at Gentry Creek and attacked the front of the line. So here the Union wagon, supply wagon train, was attacked from the front and the rear by the Confederates. So they withdrew to Antoine, well, the Confederates withdrew to Antoine to set up on Wolf Creek to attack the Union forces as they crossed the Little Missouri River on the way to Washington. However, the Federals turned at halfway on the military road and headed towards Camden. So what happened, they encountered the Unions encountered the Confederates fighting them here at this creek, and the fighting was so intense they said, okay, we're not going to go to Shreveport via the Southwest Trail. We're going to back up, and they went to Hollywood, and then they went around to Okolona, and then they went on to cross the Little Missouri River. Instead of crossing it at the Crater of Diamond State Park, they decided to cross at Elkin's Ferry, which was downstream some 34 miles or so. When they tried to cross Elkin's Ferry, they encountered more Confederates. Then they just said, look, it's not worth all the blood and loss of life here, so they just withdrew and went to Camden. So the Confederates changed the plans. They didn't capture the 200 wagons of supplies, but they did make the Union forces change their plans and not join up together. I want to bring you over here to show you one other interesting thing about this historical marker, historical site. It goes back even before the Civil War. And to me, this is fascinating. It's just old history of the area, and this just takes us back in time. So before Arkansas became a state, Abner Hignight came out here. He was one of the earliest white settlers. He came in 1810. He later brought the first seed corn to Clark County. He was a farmer, a road overseer, a deputy sheriff, and a noted bear and buffalo hunter. And he died in 1857. He was born in 1790, so he was 67 years old when he died. And it might be a little surprising to you, there just aren't many bear around here anymore, and no buffalo. But at one time, this was buffalo territory. You might think of like Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, maybe even Texas and parts of eastern Colorado as buffalo country. But Arkansas was buffalo country as well, but they just hunted them to near extinction. But at the time, back when Abner Hignight came here in 1810, there were a lot of buffalo, and he killed a lot of them. So anyway, just an interesting site here, the history, the Civil War battles, and the people who have lived here in the past. And just thank you for joining me for this historical update on our Genuine Diamonds in AR YouTube channel.